it comes to screen printing, there are many different types of inks that can be used for printing onto different types of products. The type of ink that is actually used to print a design is very important in order to get the best quality finished product. If you don't use the right type of ink on the right type of product, you're not necessarily going to get the nicest looking design or potentially even the best washed design. Again, it doesn't matter how nice a product looks when it leaves your shop. If it goes home and then it doesn't wash well, that's not good. So, we're going to go over the different types of inks that are used in direct and even transfer printing. First, you have your everyday opaque ink, which is typically takes around 1 or 2 coats of direct printing or just on direct transfer printing. This is a very universal ink that is primarily used on cotton and cotton poly blend products. It's pretty easy to use and the colors stay fairly true. Now, next to that, we actually have a soft vintage ink. These types of inks are, again, just like what they sound, softer to the touch. Touch being the hand. They virtually don't feel like anything, but the sacrifice is you're not going to have the opacity that the Max Opaque ink that were mentioned before will have. It will just, again, be a little bit faded, but you won't feel it. It won't be that rough, thick amount of print that's directly onto a shirt. Next to that, you actually have what's called a low temperature ink. Now, this ink is specifically designed for printing onto polyester and other synthetic materials. The reason being is synthetic materials cannot take the heat from a heat press without scorching or essentially leaving a box on the shirt. By using a low temperature transfer, we're able to print designs onto these sensitive products at a much lower temperature, thus not scorching the product. Low temperature transfers require ink transfer paper to actually, the powder to adhere the transfer to the finished product. Next, we actually have glitter ink. Now, glitter ink is a very thick type of ink that is not exactly the most fun to print with, but is very popular with girls. When it comes to glitter ink, because it is so thick, you cannot get a lot of fine detail within the design. But if you have a simple one color design and it's meant for some type of girls group, glitter is extremely popular. Next, we have metallic. Now, metallic is a lot like glitter in the fact that it has a shimmer to it, and again is very popular with girls, but is a little bit more unisex friendly compared to glitter. The thing about metallic inks, though, is that they actually are much thinner and allow you to print a bit more detail than glitter, but still not as much as your typical opaque, low temperature, or soft vintage ink. The more special the ink gets, the harder it is to get those fine details because the screen must be using a lower mesh count, making it harder to trap those colors properly. Next we actually have is glow-in-the-dark ink. Now, when it comes to glow-in-the-dark ink, there are many different types of ink colors as far as what it looks like when it's out in the sun and then what it looks like when it's actually in the dark. Sometimes you just have a clear print when it's in the daylight, and then when it's actually in dark, it could be one of many different colors. Or you could actually have a hot pink print in the day, and then when you actually go in the dark, it's still hot pink. So that really is dictated by what the customer wants. But I must say, when it comes to glow-in-the-dark inks, they can be very expensive, and remember, they must be charged in order to properly glow. Before you go into a glow-in-the-dark atmosphere, the ink will not glow unless it's first charged under light. UV light, the sun being the optimal, but just being under any type of light will help charge the print before going into the dark. Another great type of screen printing ink is 3D puff ink, which is just like what it sounds. It actually allows it to give a three-dimensional look and feel on the garment. The best way to achieve this is to typically use some type of transfer powder so that after it's pressed, it actually is able to adhere and then properly raise itself off of the garment. If you're actually doing a direct print, the 3D puff can get very thick and it can look really, really cool. When you're doing it as a transfer, it's a little bit harder to get the 3D look and feel as much as direct print, but still it is very, very popular and a great thing to print onto sweatshirts and other thicker materials. The last type of ink that is often used for screen printing, which is becoming more popular but is kind of rare, is actually color changing ink, which is very cool stuff. Color changing ink will actually change color from when you go inside to outside. When the UV rays from the sun actually hit the print, it turns it from black and white to a full color image. Now, full color printing like this has to be done using CMYK printing processes, and again, is a very, very expensive type of ink. But for the right job, color changing ink on a white or light colored garment is great. If you have any questions about the different types of screen printing inks, please do not hesitate contacting us. Thank you.